Remy. Oh. That was my sody just now. Take a... Alright. I'm totally ready. I'm totally prepared, as always. Yeah, having a drink with a screw cap where you only got like one hand available, probably not the smartest. Oh yeah, it's me. It's her. It's her. This is a lie. She's not even there. I was just thinking about it. I might go save your sister, but, you know, maybe only if it suits me. Oh yeah, she's talking to Shogun Takumi. Forgot about that. Even though it just happened last night. That's Norose. He's the guy who looks very funny. Yeah, I mean, she says it'll be fine. Why would she lie? Neither. Neither. Oh, that's a job? Did you have to fill out a resume for that? I want to help you. I'd rather you didn't. Yeah. Because you're the only person I talk to. Sure. Oh, that's okay. He probably deserved all of it. You probably should have done more. I don't... How though? Like, how could you have fun around that guy? He sucks. Yeah, just like him. Why would you care about him? He was like, he's slightly less awful, but still very much awful. I have so much fun. He's a wimp, weak, and helpless. It's just an absolute worthless whelp. Oh, but man, was it fun. I think your heart's lying. Nope. That's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down, sis. Can I get some dialogue choices here where I could say you might want to forget about all of that? You imprinted on him like a baby bird. Do tell. Yeah, okay, whatever. I'm sure you had fun. Get me the fuck out of this conversation. Delusional loser? Not real. Got it. That would do it. I mean, in a cosmic sort of way, I suppose. You know, so you're just like you're like the character from Jurassic World 2, where I have to let the dinosaurs free because they're just like me. Stupid. He can't. Not possible. He lives inside of a machine, doesn't he? Is he inside the Noah machine? One can't live while the other survives. I'm sorry. No, Shogun. We must end. We must end that little twerp. Permanent style. Yep. There you go. You're not gonna. We're getting the bad end and we're gonna keep it there. You know, I don't think she will. Bye-bye. Now, far past the point when it could possibly matter, this entire game, the warmth of Rimi's words filled my heart. She really was nosy. What could drive her to do all this? What could drive her to do so much for another person? Empathy? Even if it is for a shit. Uh-huh. My memories with Rimi came flooding back. We hadn't spent long together at all, and there were feelings hidden behind each word she'd spoke. Is there a part where she said, "I'm a clown, ha 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 ha"? Was there anything behind that? For this past year, I hadn't done much but play ESO and H games, along with some real money trading. You know, there was a brief moment I just had. I didn't tell you about it, but I'm gonna let you in. I was not sure if we had switched perspectives from Shogun to Takumi Nishijo and silly me. I'd spent all day on them, barely ever leaving the base. I almost never went to school. I never tried to talk to anybody. I was alive, but I'd lived my life like I was dead. Because dead people only go to school 2.5 times a week. But this past month or so had been totally different. It's only been a month. This whole story takes place over the course of a month. Jesus. That sure was a month of the exact same pose. Even if in the end she'd been lying to me. She'd been there for me. Even if she was lying, she was at least around. What a fucking shit show. When I'd been afraid, she'd made me feel better. She'd always been there to support a loser like me. She'd been there to make me feel better. She'd given me a hug and held me in her arms. One time. She did that once. Sometimes. Oh, she's saying that. Excuse me, I don't mean to step on your dialogue. I was a delusion, but she'd taught me about human warmth. You should have said 3D warmth. She could have erased me, but instead she tried to protect me. I'll be waving goodbye. She'd given me memories. I'd only been alive 1.5 years, but I could remember every instant I spent with Rimi, because it took place over the course of just 1 month. Uh-huh. The small little gestures she made. That's it. That's the only gesture she does, the salute. The scent of her hair. Pink. The sound of her breathing. Ha. The sparkle in her eyes. Can't replicate that. The cheer in her voice. Her gentle warmth. Oh. Now I understand. I'm a loser, dumb, stupid. I'm an idiot, foolish, going to fucking die. Oh. In love with Rimi. Disgusting. I chuckled at just how disgusting I was. A guy who didn't even exist, falling in love with somebody who also doesn't exist. Could a delusion even fall in love? Or was I maybe just imagining things? Okay, well, why couldn't it? Can a delusion fall in love? Well, I mean, a delusion can apparently be endlessly fucking horny. I wanted to be honest about these feelings. Rimi saw me as a friend, not as a potential boyfriend, and a creepy loser like me wasn't anywhere near worthy of her. Facts. But even if it was just one way, even if it was just for my own self-satisfaction, even if I was just a delusion, I wanted to do something to help someone, to help Rimi before I disappeared. And without you is how I disappear. When a creepy otaku falls in love, it's creepy. When a delusion falls in love, it's creepy. But so what? Even if it's creepy, even if it's never going to happen, I didn't want these feelings to be a delusion or my imagination. Our memories of the past month were a shared awareness between me and Rimi. Even if everything else was a lie, these memories and the feelings they created were real. This dude looks like a balloon. Looks like a balloon with a beanie. We're gonna save the world, Shogun spoke. I shook my head. I don't wanna. Speak up. I can't hear you. So does this guy got like the Benjamin Button thing, or like what's going on? I'm evaporating. Oh, we called him a baka. I glared at the real me, and the real me stared back at the fake me. Yeah? I hate them. You have normal skin. Yeah, fuck the world. Let 'em burn, 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 burn. I'd decide for myself the reason I was born. Oh, good luck with that, brother. The sounds around me returned. The confusion around me had only increased. At this point, it was a riot. I was surrounded by the smell of blood, by screaming, by pained moans, and the noise of some kind of machine, like a microphone feeding back onto itself. It was everywhere. And somehow also nowhere. Just reach out and grab it. I looked up. I tried to find the D-sword, blended in with the scenery. Flying rocks, tear gas smoke, people colliding all around me. I shut out all of it, and searched for the sword I'd seen just an instant on the roof of O-Front. I should be able to see it. It should be there. The part of the scenery, blended in. Find it. The D-sword is always by your side. Oh, cool. It's a really long stick. The building just to the right of the 107. There was a colorful vertical sign plastered to its side. It looked to me like the shape of a sword. I gulped nervously. I'd been able to see its shape on top of the O-Front building, too. But I hadn't been able to grab it. Empty your mind. Empty your mind of everything except fine dining and breathing. Based on what? What has he earned? I reached out from where I stood. If I was going to save the person I loved, I needed this sword. I needed it. I bit down on my lower teeth. Just say I grit my teeth. This wasn't like last time. I was surprised at how calm my heart was. A very calm heart right now. No fear. I couldn't let myself be afraid. But I wasn't calm either. So you had a calm heart, but you're not calm. Which is it? There was an emotion burning and boiling inside me. There was something I had to do. No matter what. I was about 100 meters from the 107. I moved my hand so that it seemed to overlap with the blade, and clenched my butt. He grabbed the blade like an idiot, and now his fingies are gone. My hand was reaching out into empty open space, but I felt something. It wasn't cold or hot or hard or soft. Whoa, look at it go, like a little spaceship. I slowly pulled it toward me, holding it tight in my hand. Ripples appeared in the air, and out of the ripples it came. Ski whoa. Oh hey. Now there's the theme song. Far too long to be called a sword, so delicate it could snap at any moment. Filled with an unearthly elegance, but not a trance of ornamentation. Pure malice that threatened to drain away your soul. Beautiful curves that inspired awe and fear. The flames decorating itself flickered in time with the beating of my racing heart. It didn't feel heavy at all. I'm doing my best to speak over the song because I'm certain that it's copyrighted. In fact, it felt like it had become one with my hand, like it had always been there, a part of my body. It didn't feel like I was really holding a sword at all, so this was a D-sword. I held it tight with both hands. Right now, I could real boot it too. If I could make the people around me aware of it too, this sword would become real. I didn't know how, so I just focused. Become real, I shouted in my mind. There was no more hesitation. Cool. The D-sword began to glow as if in answer to my call. The decorative flames on the hilt became real, engulfing the blade in fire. I didn't feel any heat. The flames were soon absorbed by the whole blade, and whoa, red. And with a violent shock wave, the D-sword glowed red. Some of the people around me saw the weapon and were watching in shock, but only a few. The others were still fighting and cursing one another. The riot showed no signs of stopping. Look for the... Oh my god, so overly worded. Yeah, sure. Porters. Oh, those are the people with the backpacks. Yeah, you watch out for all the fat people with backpacks. Those are the bad guys. I awakened at the thing I'd seen. Ski-wo. Well said. Oh, it's starting over. What is even... Oh, new high score on the gravity problems. Nozomi. Oh no, a fat guy with a backpack. Oh, and he's wearing a Seidaton. What a loser. The Mind Control Squad. Hell of a group title. The things I'd seen unconsciously. The things I'd unconsciously read with my mind. I let out a small, self-deprecating chuckle as Shogun calmly gave me my next directions. My god. Steal somebody else's ability. Have nothing unique to you. They're easy to find. They're all fat and have backpacks. Unlock the channels. I didn't even have to think about how I'd do it. I'd already done it before I could even think about it. Whoa. And when I did, the minds of all these people, their negative emotions, all became visible to me. It all came flooding in at once. Whoa. Oh, ski-wo. I'm in hell, sir. Hell. Look at this cocktail of negativity. Malice, hatred, jealousy, lust, subservience, everyone feels out of place. Cowardice, frivolity, filth, cunning, indecency, ugliness, vulgarity, greed, madness, murder. Frivolity on the same level as madness and murder. The hidden ugliness of all these people was revealed to me in a way more direct, more cruel, more terrible than words. All the negative emotions mankind could possess came at me in a torrent of images, enveloping my mind, scattering, shattering, and violating it. My mind was violated by a red circle. Looks like an ugly kickball. It's like melting. They looked at me with disgust, as they should. Hurt me with their words. Spat on me. My nails were torn off. I was punched again and again in the face. Kicked from behind. My hair was ripped out. My nose was bitten off. Jesus. My eyeballs were pulled from their sockets. My tongue was yanked from my mouth. Somebody's keeping that as a souvenir. My blood was drained. I was burned by hot water, not oil like you deserve. Okay. Okay. Jesus. He's having a tough time here. I was struck with blunt weapons, stabbed with sharp ones. My organs were torn out. I was strangled. I mean, after all of this has happened, is strangulation really gonna do anything? Eaten by huge beasts. Pushed off high places. Drowned in the water. After being burned by it? Oh, burnt in flames too, damn. If I synchronized with them all, my mind would shatter. I felt like I was going crazy. I bit my teeth. That is such a weird way to put that. And tried as hard as I could to focus. Had Kozapi lived her whole life like this? Yeah, get away from the being, having the awful stuff done to you. Empty your mind. Sound. I listened as hard as I could, struggling to fight off the waves of delusions. All I could hear were voices. I shut them out and searched for the sound. I heard it, a mechanical sound, the sound Sedaton had said would kill me. I heard it in the memories of others too. Senna had used her D-sword to destroy the porter's backpack that had been emitting the sound. If I focused on it, is it this killer saxophone solo? I could hear a very specific delusion. Well, it's not Sorianse. There were multiple voices. There was more than just one porter here, it seemed. Oh good, there's only 3 of them, 3 fat guys with backpacks, and here comes the theme again, so I held my breath and took a step forward. The crowd was chaotic, everyone at Scribble Crossing was moving around fighting without the slightest regard for anything other than a human being. It was hard to watch straight. I hacked into the delusions. Is this the birth of the super hacker? Into the delusions of the people in the direction I was going. The people in front of me began to part. They made a path before me. 50 meters away, I saw a single man. There was nothing standing between us now. Our eyes met. He was pudgy, wearing a suit, and Gary was a fat guy with a backpack. I told you he'd be fat and have a backpack. I ran through the crowd, without running into anyone, straight ahead, via the fastest possible route, a straight line, trailing the D-sword behind me. Oh, Nani. When the porter saw me, he turned tail and tried to run, but I wouldn't let him. Chopped his fucking head off. Just like Senna had done, I swung the huge D-sword, even taller than I was, in a horizontal arc. It's still... Wait, taller, so he swung horizontally like this? That's crazy. I could control it like it was a part of my body. Skiwo. Its tip sliced into the backpack. The backpack and its contents were vaporized, as if they'd been melted by something impossibly hot. The man dropped to his knees, holding his hands over his head to protect himself. I ignored him and headed for the second one, directly beneath O'Front. Once again, the obstacles between us disappeared. A path formed. A man was standing there. Oh, this one's rail thin, so they're not all fat. They're either fat or skinny. He's wearing jeans and a checkered shirt. His hair was long and his skin was sickly pale. He was holding his bag carefully, like it contained some dear treasure. He noticed me and immediately tried to hide within the crowd, but before he could, I threw the D-sword. Skiwo. Fly. I envisioned the scene in my delusion. It ignored all laws of physics, flying parallel to the ground and accelerating as it went. Skiwo. It subtly altered its course as it flew and rammed right through the porter's backpack. There was a small burst of light and the man toppled to the ground. One left. And this one's gonna be of average build and plain clothes. I ran over to the fallen man and recovered my D-sword. The third was in front of the Hachiko statue. I knew this one. I'd encountered them a few times before. Actually, in fact, I'd talked to her almost every day. The crowd parted, and once again a path was formed. At the end of it, I saw a woman who looked very out of place. She was in a white nurse's outfit. Ah, Nurse Hazuki. That's grim. The nurse who'd smiled so kindly at me at the hospital. Now she was glaring at me. Pictured here. Daggers in her eyes. Look at her. She's clearly deranged. There was a large handbag in her hands. It was probably a Noah 2 terminal. Reveal the truth. What's she done? How does he know that she's grim? Or is he just accusing kitchen sink style, hoping for the best? I remembered the chat log from that night. Just before Shogun had spoken to me, Grim had left the room, along with a joke image he'd drawn. Skibo. It was the one that Hazuki had been drawing on the medical charts. It was a very poorly drawn picture, but what it showed was the crucified murder. Yeah, I forgot all about that. Whoa. And then there was what Grim had said about the new gen murders, too. It's all happening right near your house, lol. I'd never told him I lived in Shibuya. And even just a few hours ago, Grim had said something that showed he knew I was Takumi Nishijo. You're famous. They'll all be excited to see you. And then the second time I'd gone to the hospital, Hazuki had said this. A week later, Dr. Takashino was found dead. Whoa, pretty circumstantial ass evidence here. But it's a visual novel, so definitely it was her. I hoped I could find out if I looked into her mind. Skiwo. Yeah, huh? Shino Hazuki was standing in the operating room of AH Tokyo General Hospital where she worked. It was late at night. On the bed was a young man, Chizuo Konoe. He'd been put into a state of semi-unconsciousness by a sleeping drug. May the force be with you. Oh, boy. Oh, no. Oh, no. I know where this is going. This probably is not going to be fun. She preggers. She slipped off her white uniform, sat down on the table, and... Ha ha, save us. With no anesthetic. There was a deafness in her touch. Oh, good. Despite having no training as a surgeon, and I don't like this image. I don't like this at all. This is terrible. Clearly she's Yeah, she sure did. She pulled out the baby. Hazuki gave her child a loving hug before placing it on the stand next to the operating table and sewing up her wounds, just like casually, just like, yeah, we're all done here. Take this. She stood up and brought the baby over to the man on the bed. And she stuffed it into a watermelon, apparently. There was none of the grace and exactness. Yeah, look how exact and graceful she is in this image. The man woke up from the pain, but his limbs had been tied down tightly to the bed, and there was no way for him to escape. She yanked the knife across his stomach, oblivious to his screams. It tore through flesh and skin, blood spurted out, splashing on her face. Tee-hee-hee. She put her hands into the open wound, and then she yanked it open as hard as she could. The sound of ripping meat filled the operating room. It's a good thing she's the only doctor who works there. The man's body began to twitch, and the pain made him slip in and out of consciousness. When she saw the wound was big enough, Hazuki smiled gently, and then she took her own baby, jammed it into the wound, and no one noticed because this game is all about silly delusions and just nonsense fuckery. Wow. That's just gross. Okay. That's just disgusting. She's like, I didn't do that. Wait. Oh, he's like, let me just go and put that on the big screen. She couldn't understand how it had happened. It had to be Takumi Nishijo's gigglomaniac powers. Takumi Nishijo spoke with his head down and D-sword in hand. The riot had calmed itself instantly. Now there was only silence. And thousands of people who had been fighting were now all staring up at the screen. Some turned pale and looked away. Some threw up on the spot. The media were trying to turn their cameras on Hazuki. She was blinded by one camera flash after another, just like, like the other fat backpackers. They just got poked with a stick and fell down. They're like, oh, not you, because you were the killer the whole time. That's cheating.
胎児とあなたの DNA を鑑定すればわかることです。どうしてあんなことを。ねえ、クリム。
Couldn't raise a baby in this world.
ナイトハルト。すべては教祖様のお言葉なんですよ。
Hazuki put her hand into the handbag on her shoulder. It contained the Noah 2 terminal port and a surgical knife. Just decided to keep this with me. Never know when you might need it. She grabbed the knife and put it up against her neck. Oh boy. Oh yeah, she's a nurse, so she knew where the carotid was. Bah. Let's see. This game is pretty shameless. Will it show it? Survey says. Hazuki smiled at Takumi Nishijo, and her kind smile, the one she'd always shown her patients. Okay, this is it. Do we see the deed, or do we hear a silly sound alongside like a watermelon being sliced? Watermelon sound. That's what you're concerned about right now? He's a psychic? You didn't just see that lady go fucking postal on her own neck? Someone whispered. Only after I could feel my many gazes on me did I realize she was talking about me. Shino Hazuki had done that by cutting her own throat, and in front of a huge crowd of people, and they didn't care. Maybe it would be more accurate to say she'd martyred herself. I could still smell the disgusting scent of her blood. The riot had completely calmed. You know, one person dies and they're like, maybe we should calm down. Shino Hazuki's memories, displayed on the huge screens, were the perfect way to calm the people's excitement. Yeah, that would calm me down. Wow, that is a pretty gruesome murder. Maybe I should go home. Everyone had fallen dead silent at the shocking footage. Blood was still pouring from her corpse. Several people walked over to her. Started to kick her dead body. This is normal. It was the corpse of a murderer. Did that mean there was no need to show it any respect? Were they going to chop off her head? Were they going to put it on a pike? Walk it down Bastille Day style? This is fucking out of control. How much of a difference was there between her and the people kicking her body? Humans are such ugly creatures, including me. The media crowded around their big scoops like packs of hyenas. Ha ha ha, commentary. Half went to Hazuki's body, the other half to me. Incredible, that lady. Who gives a shit? We're sorry we doubted you. No shot. Definitely not. Words of praise, one after another. Thank you. I know. Not happening. Friendly words, one after another. I felt the emptiness in all of them. What was the difference between a delusion and a fake image created by the media? There probably wasn't much of one, if there was one at all. Takumi. It was just like last time. The heat I'd felt when they were looking up at me from the bottom of the O front building. Fuck all of you fucking fucks. I screamed. I couldn't take it anymore. Yeah, baka mitai. I started to cry. And they're like, oh, this shit, he's a whiner. Let's get out of here. Let's go home. It felt so sad. It felt so stupid. I just had to cry. I was no hero. You got that right. Yeah, at least he admits it. Hope some of them just go, ew. Yeah, let's just leave this guy to have his fucking shit fit. Well, I guess that is character development. At least he admits to being a fucking shit. My face was covered with tears and snot. I'd forgotten that all of Japan was watching me on live TV. And Shogun's just there like, oh, fuck. This is the guy I wanted to fucking save the world. Hell yeah. This is true. The voices around me fell silent. The crowd stopped cheering. The media were looking at me, confused and suspicious. Here in the middle of Shibuya, in the heart of Scramble Crossing, my voice was the only sound. Well, you haven't been particularly entertaining, so... Suddenly, I saw an image of Rimi's face. He's just fucking screaming. I want to fight for the person I care about and then disappear. But before I could say that, suddenly I saw something in the night sky. It was turning white. It wasn't a cloud. It was an it wasn't an out-of-season snowfall. It was the same phenomenon that had occurred the last earthquake. But by the time I'd realized that, it was too late. Is that like the Ice Age or something? Whoa, ski whoa, a little bit of H-punch going on here. First there was the rumbling, then the ground shook. The white in the sky spread further and further. Next, a terrible ringing in my ears, the high-pitched sound of something resonating that threatened to split open my head. Everyone around me was holding their ears as well. And then... ski-whoa! The whole world turned white and did a fun little sound effect. Thank God! Chapter 10. Silent Sky. Does this mean it's almost over? Please let this mean it's almost over. I was standing in the water, and the water was so clear, it was almost transparent. It was shallow. It only came up to my ankles. It didn't feel cold. I could hear the intermittent sound of the waves. I was holding the handles of a wheelchair. Shogun, no, the real Takumi Nishijo, was right in front of me, wearing his knitted cap. He was sitting in his wheelchair, back slightly bent forward. There was nothing at all around us. You might expect to see a shell buried in the sand, or a seagull soaring through the sky, but there was nothing like that at all. There were no signs of life, only the blue sea and the clear sky. The world was flat, oh no, and level, as far as I could see, extending all the way to the horizon. This wasn't the real world. Oh, phew. Good, don't want anybody getting no ideas now. No, sorry to hear that. I could hear Shogun's voice mixed with the breaking waves. I couldn't see the look on his face from where I was standing. There was no real sorrow in his voice. There was no real emotion at all. What do you mean? You look great. Not a day over dead. Oh, goodness. It was reed thin, small, covered in wrinkles. All his hair had fallen out. It is Benjamin Button syndrome. Early aging. It was a rare disease that affected 1 in around 8 million people. I remembered hearing about it in a movie called The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. I remembered the terrible event I'd experienced around that age. I deluded the bus into crashing. A gigalomaniac. A gigalomaniac, Lois. She may have. I don't know. There's been so many words. Whoa. Oh, his anti-particles were taken back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass. I think this might be one of them. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Shogun was unmoving in his wheelchair. What was he looking at? What could he see? Yeah, keep it going. Well, you should cancel it out harder. Yeah, you did a real shit job there, Shogun. No, I didn't finish you. That's why you suck in almost every conceivable way. I sighed. I really did hate this guy. I hate all of you.
意味にはいつも力を使うな。彼女は君は
For some reason.
でも僕はリミの忠告に従う今の危機的状況は僕の IR2 がきっかけなんだから。
IR2. The strange scribbling on the back of the essay.
IR2 はある科学者の手に止まり、やがてそれがプロジェクトの言ってみれば人工的にギガロマニアックスの能力を発生させるそう僕が計画に気づくことができたのは
We made a machine to replicate this fake thing we came up with.
彼女がひどい拷問を受けていたのはそのノアのシステムを効率化するために必要だったのがギガロマニアックスが力を使う過程で放出する特殊な脳波のそれを手に
The unique gravity brainwaves make gigalomania stronger. Listen to all this. Oh my god.
感情を抱くときギガロマニアックスは力が覚醒し理想度を獲得する
Holy shit. I swear, science adventure games get so much better. Thank God they get so much better. Imagine if Steins Gate had been this bad.
バイオリズムの上昇によって中脳変影系ニューロンのドーパミン、それは危機的な状況や興奮、悲しみ、憎しみ、ドーパミン分泌量が多ければそれだけ観測しやすくなる。
君が僕にちょっかいをかけて君を覚醒させるためにごめん
It wasn't just me and Remy. Other people had been physically and psychologically tortured as a part of Project Noah as well, and to awaken them as gigalomaniacs. ISA, Senna, too, Kosapi, even Nanami. They'd all been made to... It seems we've been made to suffer.
IR2 から生み出されたノア2は僕が自分の目ででも僕はこんな体だ満足に動くこと
My god.
それに僕のコードサンプルを欲しがる望みから狙われ
You
る
can't torture a little guy. The fact that I was staying at AH Tokyo General Hospital made matters even worse. It has secret connections to the Nozomi group.
だから身を隠さなくちゃいけない幻の病室のアミーチュンかあそこに入ってこられたのはリミだけだった僕は身動きが取れなくなってそれ僕を作ったのか
Shogun nodded slightly.
君を消すようになると命を削る行為だからやめろでも僕に残された命は長くない力を使わなくたって
His voice was so very calm. Maybe it was the calm of someone who was given a death sentence years ago.
それに君が覚醒して力を使う僕と君は一心同体そうだね
でも一つだけもうねタクの妄想力はとっても強いから妄想をすればするほど本物のあなたの命が削られていっちゃうんだ
If I kept my promise to Rimi, I wouldn't be able to go save her. Even if I tried, I'd be helpless to do anything. This is brutal. Oh my god, this is so brutal. Oh, cool. I was stunned. It was far less than I expected. You look like you got at least a week.
気にしなくていいよ君の覚醒は君が死んだの君は僕と一心同体であると同時にリアル生まれ方は特殊かもしれないけど
I real booted you.
人間だよ僕が消えれば
This is how I disappear.
無駄だよせいぜい寿命が数日から数週間伸びるぐらいでもそんな愚かな選択肢を選ぶのはやめ君にはノア2を破壊してほしい
Can this happen in like the next 15 minutes, please? I'd really fucking appreciate that. Uh-huh. Shogun laughed. His shoulders shook. Just a little. I didn't mean to make him laugh, so it made me mad.
君が目覚めてくれて勝手な
I'm
話
not.
を描くかもしれないけど
Later.
君に託す
Suddenly, the feeling of the handles of the wheelchair disappeared from my mind. His wheelchair had moved away from me and was gliding across the water. Oh, he got one of them amphibious wheelchairs? That's cool. The wheels were slicing through the surface, creating little waves. I had no intention of following him. I just watched him go.
僕の役目は勝手だね。僕にも少し疲れちゃう。
He turned his wheelchair back around to face me. Like always, I couldn't read his expression, but there was tension in his voice.
時間がない。急いで。
Yeah, let's get a move on.
ノアツを深く
We trying to end this shit.
ノアツを直接破壊する。頼んだよ。
Ugh, that's a mistake. Then he disappeared. Like he'd vanished in a fog, the colors of the mental world began to slowly fade. Hearts and thoughts, they fade away.
僕自身が決めた
Yeah,
ことを
yeah,
やるだ
yeah.
け
Sound of the waves, blah, blah, blah. I took a good long look at the endless blue sky to burn it into my memory like Rimi had once done. And then I softly closed my eyes. The serious-sounding voice of a newscaster was coming from the radio. It's a bit of a leap. Whoa. Sorry, guys. Earthquake done fucked us. No train rides. There was a crackle of static before the voice on the radio vanished entirely.
ダメだわまた聞こえなくなった
Momose picked up the old portable radio, shook it, and then smacked it a few times before letting out a big sigh.
古いから使い物にならないわね
Yeah, you tell it. Oh, dang. She let out a forced smile and looked to the side. Next to her were a tired-looking Ayase Kishimoto and Yua Kusunoki. Both Ayase and Yua's clothes were covered in dirt, and it was obvious how difficult it must have been for them to get this far. Yeah, look at them. Look how tough they've both had it. But the weapons in their hands, the D-swords, didn't have a speck of dust on them. Their cold light was as bright as ever. How is Yua Kusunoki gonna go like this, with a sword in her hand? Or a fucking meat cleaver from the look of it. After the earthquake, Yua and Ayase had walked from Yoyogi to Shibuya, then headed to Frieza's office to meet with Momose. The three of them had waited at a spot near the office, whose building had tilted badly during the earthquake, and now seemed in danger of falling over, hoping that Bon would show up. Nah, he did. But even by the time morning came, there was no sign of him. Momose had suggested leaving Shibuya, but Ayase had rejected the idea.
グラジオール目覚めたの
The Black Knight always triumphs. Then she tried to drag Yua out into the rubble of central Shibuya. Lacking any better options, Momose and Yua had come with her. She can't real boot anything because I guess she got no imagination. It was 7 in the morning. The sun hadn't even been up for an hour yet. There was no sign whatsoever of crisp morning air. Nightfall had hidden the full extent of yesterday's disaster, but now the dawn's light was beginning to expose it, and they were in the middle of it. What? Shibuya was a scene from a nightmare. Huge cracks had appeared in the roads, and their asphalt had bulged up from beneath the ground. Several buildings had fallen over, burying the streets around them in rubble. Most of the glass had shattered, Steve Austin style, and the huge billboards on the roofs had fallen off the sides. That's right, glass shattering, all stone cold. Gotta come down here and kick everybody, you gigalomaniac's ass. Give me a hell yeah. If you all want to see old stone cold real booted D-sword, give me a hell yeah. This Momose would feel terrible every time she saw one. He gave a silent prayer for them. Oh, Stone Cold ran someone over with an ATV. What? There, people are wandering, I guess. Several men were working together to save some of the people trapped by the rubble, but without any heavy equipment, it was a hopeless cause. Momose turned to look at the thing in Yua's hands. A D-sword. Ayase had explained what it was to her. A sword which could create things from nothing as if by magic. What Bon had said was true. Yua seemed surprised and confused that she herself had one of the swords. Ayase was walking ahead of her and didn't even turn around when Momose spoke. There was a tense nervousness on her face.
このディソードを持つ人はあなたたちを含めて全部で7人いるっていう。他の人たちがどこにいるのかわかる？
Nope.
わからない。
だったら
感じるのよ、意志を。こっちで間違いないわ。
The will of the D-sword user. Ayase was no help. Momose sighed and repeated the same thing she'd been saying all morning.
今むやみに歩き回るのは危ないわ。ひとまず安全な
Then go. You ain't got a fun sword. Get out of here.
ダメよ、時間がないの。
もしかしたら他の黒騎士だったかしら。その人たちだ。
そうですよ、岸本さん。私も
Perhaps Yua was more persuasive than Momose had been because Ayase suddenly stopped. Her eyes narrowed. She was staring down a street at Dogenzaka Hill, which was now completely impassable to cars.
え？だって何？
Hello? Is anyone here? I'm lost. Ayase was staring at a girl who was coming from the direction of the station. She was wearing a Suime uniform, but her clothes were more of a mess than Yua's or Ayase's. You don't fucking say. She was holding a huge cross-shaped sword up to her chest with just her left hand. Her steps were unsteady, as if she might fall over at any moment.
大変。
Momose ran toward the girl, Takumi Nishijo. Why are you gonna put her plump body, like, why? Why though? What's with the fucking fat phobia? Yeah, this fucking game. It's of its time, but I mean, like, it's still kind of, it's not a very good game, so, like, is anybody gonna be really upset that we're calling out fat phobia here? Like, it's just a bit much. She was concerned about the D-sword in Nanami's hand, but for now, she was more concerned about helping her. She grabbed her tiny body and helped her stay upright.
大丈夫？よく頑張ったわね。
It's never
病
Daijobu.
院に連れて行ってあげるから。
Nanami just looked at her with vacant eyes. She looks like fucking... She looks like Rob Van Dam after an Easter bender. Just like, whoa, dude. I hit the 5-star, dude. Yua and Ayase ran up to her as well, just a moment after Momose.
西条君の
そう、黒騎士の資格があるのに見つけるの。たく、
二人ともこの子を運ぶのを手伝って。
Have you guys noticed I'm missing a fucking hand? Nanami moaned in pain. Ugh. Momose took a quick glance down at her hand, only to gasp in shock. It was gone. Just real boot a new hand. Mechanical style. Yua and Ayase couldn't understand why Momose was so shocked. Nanami's hand was wrapped in a bloody bandage, but it didn't look that badly injured. But to Momose's eyes, her arm ended in a bloody stump at the wrist. It had been sewn up, but the wound had opened. Ayase tried to grab hold of Nanami's right hand at the fingers, a blank expression on her face, but the hand passed through empty air. Her fingers were like a hologram, visible but without substance. Blood dripped from the red bandage and fell onto Ayase's hand. Ayase, unconcerned. Well, fuck.
リミさんに助けて。リミさんって崎畑リミさん。
知ってるの？
You know her?
西条くんのお友達の。
Yua had thought that Takumi was the new gen killer, and had spent a lot of time investigating him and his surroundings. Of course, that included the people he spent the most time with, like Takumi Nishijo and Rimi Sakihata. Ayase's expression darkened just slightly when she heard Rimi's name. Just the one I smacked. Whack!
崎畑リミも七人黒騎士の人。
そうなんですか？
Ayase remembered what had happened at the hospital yesterday. She remembered the sadness in Rimi's voice.
タクに近づかないで。
No.
目覚めさせたくないの。
君には自覚がないの。黒騎士の。
私が一人で何とかするから。
とても美しいわ、その思いは。でもそれは大いなる意志、私も望んでいないわ。
I'll slap you again.
黒騎士云々の話は今は置いときましょう。とにかく早く病院に連れて行かないと血が止まらないわ。
Momose put her handkerchief up against Nanami's wounds.
すごい熱だし、顔色も悪い。
Now we gotta argue about some shit and make this more of a race against time. A single tear dripped from her empty eyes. And just after that, it happened without warning. Why did it make that noise? The street collapsed and it went, ah! The ground fell out from underneath them, and they began to fall. It was like they were falling into the darkness of an endless abyss. Momose screamed in a voice that sounded much too afraid and immature for someone her... She's falling to her goddamn death, and the game's like, she sounded like a baby bitch. Wow. It's kind of amazing. I looked up and saw a thick layer of clouds. At some point, the night had ended. Yep. But there was no sign of a blue sky. Oh no, Twitter's back. The sky was depressing, dull, dark, and gray. In the distance, I could hear the ear-splitting sound of ambulance and fire engine sirens. I could see the helicopters circling in the sky above. There were so many, like flies. My head ached. It was like there was road construction crew working overtime inside my skull. The pain was even worse than it had been during the last earthquake. I tried to remember what had happened just before my memories went blank. The white sky, what Shogun had called the third melt. I sat up, trying to ignore the pain from my headache, and was shocked by what I saw. The city I knew was gone. It was like one of those post-apocalypse movies that had been popular a decade ago, still are. Shibuya had been destroyed. The traffic signals, the roadside trees, even some of the buildings had fallen over. The famous televisions above Scramble Crossing were cracked and silent. The roofs above the entrance to the subways had collapsed, burying them. The bridges where the Yamanote line ran had collapsed, leaving the severed rails jutting out into space. There were people lying everywhere. Blood and scraps of flesh clung to the rubble. People who weren't moving, people moaning in pain, people screaming, "Help me." Don't just sit there in your inner monologue, "Help me." People covered in dust and dirt, crawling on the ground, deathly pale. People crying as they held an unmoving body in their hands. The smell of blood, the stench of something burning. Is that hot in here or is it just me? And the smell of dust in the air. I could see pillars of smoke rising in the distance. So, this was the power of Noah too. I felt a wave of terror wash over me. It was a weapon of mass destruction. I finally understood why Shogun was so desperate to stop it. Wait, where was Shogun? I came back to my senses and looked around. I could see a badly bent wheelchair right next to me. His tiny body was lying next to it. I ran over to him and held him in my arms.
ねえおいしっかりして
No, no, no. It's over. I yelled at him, but there was no answer. I couldn't hear the voice of his mind either. Was he dead? This is a late shogun. He's expired and gone to meet his maker. I put my ear up to his mouth. His breathing was faint, but he was breathing. He was just passed out. Oh. I tried giving him a light slap on the cheek. Bah! But he didn't wake up.
の圧はどこにあるの
Unless I knew that, I couldn't go save Rimi and Nanami. I should have asked Shogun to tell me earlier. Yeah, I probably should have led with that. I took my phone out from my pocket, but the battery was dead, and I didn't have a signal. It was useless now, because it had come in handy every other time in this story. Was there anybody else besides Shogun who would know? Think. There was no time to waste. That Norose guy might decide to kill Rimi at any minute. Who? Who else out there who knew about Noah too, and who could help me?
君たちは特別な存在だ。中でも一番特別なのはその目。誰の目を
Issei Hatano. Senna's father. One of the original members of Project Nova's research team. And now he was missing. And that's easier. He will be easier to find, apparently. I'd never met him. I might have just missed him a few times. According to Kozubi, he was wandering around Shibuya dressed as a homeless person.
見つけるしかない
What a thing to cosplay as. I picked up Shogun's body and carried him on my back as I started to walk through the rubble. He was shockingly light. Well, yeah, isn't he supposed to be like a 10-year-old boy, but like an old man? I had no idea where Hatano could be. I'd just have to look for him. My god, this game is gonna go on for fucking eternity. Shockingly light or not, though, Shogun's body still weighed around 20 kilograms. You can do the conversion on your own time. I didn't have the strength to carry him around Shibuya, not with the rubble and destroyed roads. I'd never done any real exercise in my life, after all. All I ever did was sit in front of the PC. I thought about taking Shogun to a hospital, but with the way things were in Shibuya, I couldn't call an ambulance. Ha. I ran out of strength halfway up one of the less steep hills in Dogenzaka. I was out of breath, and my body was, pouring with sweat. Let's go. I wiped the sweat from my brow and stopped to catch my breath. Somebody sing a song. That's pretty cool. I'd probably be doing the same thing. Don't think I would sing anything on the nose, but... A voice was singing. It was sad, but not in despair. It was pleasant. I'd heard the voice somewhere before. It was on the stage at a concert hall. Last time it had been accompanied by violently flashing lights that shocked the eyes and earth-shakingly loud noise. But now it was an empty road with no one around, in a collapsed city where death now ruled. I put Shogun down. I was like, I don't need this old man no more. Leave him behind. The only thing I could see were a few corpses. I looked around for ISA, trying my best not to stare at the bodies. Where was her voice coming from? I could see a collapsed street in front of me. There was a huge hole open in the ground. If I remembered right, the subway ran under this street. It didn't seem possible for her to be down there, but I looked over the edge anyway, just to see. It was around 5 meters deep. You can do the conversion on your own time. There were small piles of rubble everywhere. ISA was lying there. I'm going to help you! I leapt down into the hole, and then became stuck also. I screwed up the landing and fell face first into a pile of shit. Bad guy falls in poop. Classic element of physical comedy. Now comes the part where we throw our heads back and laugh. Ready? Ready. Ayase's leg was pinned by a large lump of concrete, and she couldn't move. I tried to get it off her, but it was too heavy for me to budge it by myself.
私だけじゃない。他に3人いるわ。君の妹も。
My sister? Who's that?
ナナミが
I have one of those? Why was she here? Didn't that Norosei guy have her?
ナナミナナミ
I ignored the pain I was feeling and forced myself to stand up. I shouted her name, but there was no reply. I looked around and saw one other woman besides Ayase, a portly, fucking god, woman lying face down on the ground. She wasn't moving, but I also couldn't see any injuries. She probably just passed out and fat. I couldn't see Nanami or the other person. Maybe they'd been buried alive. I needed to do something fast. I glanced up at the hole above me. There was so much dust that I felt like I was going to start coughing just looking at it. Beyond it, I could see the sky. I thought of Shogun, who I had left lying on the ground. I remembered what Rimi had said.
妄想すればするほど本物のあなたの
That's fine.
削られていっちゃうんだ。
He's dead. Fuck that guy. There was no time to waste. Skew-o! I pulled out my D-sword from invisible space. I sat down next to Ayase and looked at her face, making sure to keep her leg out of my field of vision. I'm gonna chop this off, okay? I stared into her eyes. That was enough.
妄想するんだ
Make it strong, make it real.
綾瀬の足の上にある瓦礫は大きなものじゃない重くない簡単に他の二人も助け出せる
Me and Ayase, if I create a shared awareness between two gigalomaniacs, it's bound to become real. Oh, Skiwo. Yay! Ayase smiled in relief. Her fingers gently stroked my cheek. Ooh.
グラジオールを導きに君が来てくれたの。
No, it was the A button and pressing it several times that led me here. The huge block of concrete that was crushing her leg had turned into a bunch of tiny chunks, just like in my delusion. I moved a few of them aside and she was free. I hadn't for a moment thought that it would work this well. She sat up and rubbed her ankle. Fortunately, she didn't seem to be badly injured.
綾瀬の歌が聞こえたんだ
よかった。歌い続けてきた。
Could you speak up a bit? I lent Ayase a hand to help her to her feet and looked around
ナ
us.
ナミは
I still couldn't see my sister. Had the delusion failed, or was she already... I started to get worried. I heard a voice. I looked in the direction it was coming from and saw a hand poking out from the rubble. I grabbed the hand by the fingers and looked through the gaps in the rubble. The gap formed a small tunnel. At the end of it was a girl in glasses. I recognized her. It felt like it had been a long time since I'd seen Yua.
なぜか急についさっきまで全く身動きが取れなかったんです。
手をしっかり
Okay, good. This has been a real opportunity for him to be a shitbag. I gripped her hand harder, and then yanked as hard as I could to pull her out of the rubble. Ayase helped too. Together we were able to pull her out without too much trouble at all. Oh, thank God it wasn't too much trouble. Cough, cough.
ありがとう。
You're welcome. Cough. Her whole body was covered in dust. There were tiny chunks of concrete clinging to her hair. But she didn't seem to be hurt. Now all that was left was Nanami. I left Yua to Ayase and went to search for her. If Ayase was able to escape that easily, then my delusion had probably worked, and if that was the case, then I might be able to pull her out from a gap, like I had with Yua. Just like I thought, after looking under a few piles of rubble, I was able to find her.
ナナミ
I called, but she didn't answer. She seemed to be unconscious. I reached out a hand to touch her, but then hesitated. Kapoof. What if she turns into butterflies? I remember how she'd suddenly disappeared when I touched her yesterday. No, this Nanami was real. She had to be. I reached out and grabbed her shoulder, or rather, her blouse. I could touch her just fine. I could feel her warmth. I pulled her out as hard as I could, just like I'd done with Yua. Unlike the other girls, Nanami's clothes were covered in blood. Her arm, in particular, was bright red. I laid her face up on the ground to check her breathing. Her breathing was pained, barely there, but she was breathing. Good. Now I was worried about her blood-stained right hand. I went to grasp it to take a look, and my finger slipped right through it. A delusion. So Nanami's right hand was a delusion. Ugh. Nanami let out a soft moan. Her face was covered in dust. I put a hand up to her cheek and softly ran my hand along it. Her eyes opened just a little. Baka. Her gaze wandered about the room for a second before she saw me. Wah-wah. Suddenly, her face twisted in sadness. Tears came pouring down from her eyes. She gripped my hand tightly with her left hand. No, Baka. She pleaded with me in a whisper, but I just shook my head a little. Oh, fuck. Why would you say that? You didn't need to say that. Huh? Her memories were all messed up. That's how it seemed to Takumi Nishijo. Her brother's words triggered something in her. It suddenly felt like she had two brothers. Two shitbags. No, it didn't feel like she had two brothers. She had two brothers. She could see both of their faces. One wimpy and helpless looking, one covered in wrinkles. But she was also sure that she only had a single brother. There was a gap, and it was getting bigger. A gap between her memories and what she knew. What was real? What wasn't? She didn't know, and it scared her. She tried to empty out her mind of everything except for fine dining and breathing. Tough to do. And suddenly her own words came back to her, like a rippling on the water. I have to fix this. I gotta take care of this guy because he fucking sucks and can't do it. Suddenly she was standing in a hallway at dusk. The pungent scent of disinfectant hung in her nose. There was a plain, unadorned door in front of her. She was holding its handle, and then without any conscious intent on her part, her hand opened the door. Why are you in a hospital room in an old cinema, Baka Oni? It's okay to be a picky eater. I like green peas. Those are actually quite good. I like those green beans, string beans, edamame, sugar snaps, or mangetu, whatever you want to call it. I love that shit. Snow pea, some scallop shrimp, seafood saute, you know. Fills you up. Zinc, iron, minerals. That's a deep cut for 4 people. I love all 4 of you. I'm going to die. Yeah, what are you talking about, you Baka Oni? I don't want you here. Sayonara. Whoa. Her memories ended there. The fact that she'd had an older brother, a real one, the fact that he was badly ill, and that she'd spent years taking care of him, the fact that she'd always tried to have her act together, to be strong, all these things had vanished from her memories for the past year and a half. The memories had been hidden from her. And in their place were other memories. Her brother was healthy and lived alone in Shibuya. Her mom had asked her to check up on him every once in a while, and so she'd go to his place after school. This had been her habit for a long time. It was normal in her family. She'd never doubted these memories.
どうしてナナ忘れちゃってたんだろう。
30 minutes after she was rescued from being buried alive, Nanami was finally reunited with her real brother. He was lying on the road. He was breathing, but unconscious. His body was small, thin, covered in wrinkles. He looked so weak, singular. It was the brother she'd always known.
こんなの
Jesus Christ, he looks like a fucking zombie. Plants vs. Zombies here. Good lord.
ナナはお兄に文句ばっかり言ってたけどお兄のこと一度だって買ってないわ。
Well, now you don't have to. Look on the bright side. She heard a metallic clinking sound coming from his clothing. Something fell out of his breast pocket. Was it Nana no Banguru? Nana's bangle. It was what she'd sought for so long. It was what she'd lost when they'd taken her right hand. A cheap bangle with a snowflake design. She stared at his face, confused. But his wrinkled eyes stayed shut. She picked up the bangle with her left hand. It felt just like she remembered. Cheap, cubic zirconium. The bangle was the first present her brother had given her. It was her treasure. She looked up, her eyes unconsciously searching for her other brother. He had his back turned to her and held a long sword in his hand. He was walking away. He was going to leave. Nanami's intuition told her this clearly. He was going to leave without saying anything to her. The thought made her sad.
言っておいで。
Go away. Nanami squinted and looked around.
声が
It was her brother's voice as she remembered it. It was speaking directly into her mind, coming from his unconscious body.
彼は僕と一心同体。もう一
We've
人
already been over this. Oh my god. Get on with it! Whether it was her brother's voice or just her own imaginings, Nanami couldn't tell. But either way,
分かった。
she whispered to her brother as he lay on the ground. Hey, you! And then she stood up and walked toward her other brother. She could barely walk. She'd spent days in a dark room pinned to some bizarre object, forced to endure terrible pain. She didn't remember how many times she'd thought about dying, but probably at least twice. Her right hand especially had been in constant pain, like somebody had cut it off. It felt like there was no hand there, but when she looked, she could see one. Confused sensations were driving her insane. Look at her. She's deranged. Mentally and physically, she was exhausted. Fair. So am I. If she wasn't careful, she might collapse here, unable to take another step. That's why it took all of her strength and effort to even stretch out her hand. But she wanted to stop him from going, no matter how hard it was for her to do. Excuse me, Baka Oni. Have you seen my hand? She just barely squeezed out the word, but he heard it. He stopped and turned back at her. Fuck do you want? She'd succeeded in keeping him from leaving, but now she wasn't sure what to say. The reality was that this boy wasn't her brother, but her mind kept telling her he was. The two feelings got mixed together in her head, and she couldn't separate them. But the bangle she held in her left hand, it felt cold to the touch, but the fact that it was a present from him warmed her heart. It connected the two of them. That's how it felt to her. That was enough of an answer for her.
お兄は本当のお兄じゃないかもしれないけど頼りにならなくて
You might be a wimp otaku, dumb piece of shit pervert.
口が悪くて愛想もなくて
You fucking suck.
ナナのお兄だよ
I guess we're related. Kind of. She held back tears and smiled as best she could, realizing, wow, this is a tough sell to like this guy.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, alright. Her older brother gave her a shy smile, and then, relieved, she slowly began to pass out. Oh, thank God. She go, fuck this. Fuck this shit, I'm out. Nanami staggered like she was about to fall. I quickly ran over to grab her. She was unconscious. Her face was pale. Her breathing was labored. Oh, fuck. The large woman who said her name was Momose. We know her name. You could just say the lady who introduced herself as Momose. You fuck. You fucking... Oh, this game. Spoke sternly as she looked at Nanami's face and then turned to look at Shogun. No, he ain't a child. He like 99 years old. I gave Naname to Momose. Take care of both of them, please. I've got other things to do. Take care of some shit. I needed the location of Noah too. I'd asked Nanami, but she wasn't sure when they'd be holding her. I was supposed he was just asking her. She's passed out like, where are they? Where are they? She don't know, man. Shit. My one chance to find the man named Hataro. Yeah, sure, whatever. If what she meant was Noah too, then yes. Ayase's expression tensed. She took a step forward. She was dragging her foot a little. Maybe she had been hurt after all. Hell yeah. No. Go home. We don't need you anymore. You're just a side character. Yua was standing behind Momose. When I said her name, I could see her twitch nervously. We don't have to be together. I can see and hear everything you do. Right now, that was the best option we had. We had to hurry. If another earthquake hit, there was no guarantee I'd survive. I am weak and fragile, after all. Ayase spoke, looking disappointed. Like, man, I'm a side character, but I don't get to do any main character shit. This sucks. I'm just fat in here. Oh, not Genichi Norose. Who's heard of that guy? Alright, cool. I ain't got to deal with the bad guy. Sweet. You deal with that shit. She puffed her chest out, which is large, and then she nodded as if trying to give me courage. Yeah, don't be a baka. He about to be a baka, fucking hardcore style. Oh, yeah, he's dead. Was she talking about Yasuji-ban? I knew he was dead. His partner had shot and killed him. I'd seen it happen while unconscious. I tried to tell Momose that, but... I don't have the heart to tell her. Wow. Well, you'll find out later. Yeah, I nodded. It was a promise that I knew I could never keep. But I couldn't think of any other way to answer her. That's relatable. I'd be in the same... I was like, oh. Honestly, I would probably make a face. Will you tell Bon if you see him that I'm looking for him? Yeah. Yua's voice was barely audible, and she wasn't looking me in the eye. For the past few minutes, she'd been glancing over at me, waiting for a chance to speak. It's fine. I'm very suspicious, so that's fair. I can see it. Ugh. You sure did. And she bowed deeply. I just turned my back to her without answering. Come on. I want you to have my spunk doll. I have unleashed upon it several times. I want you to have it. This is as a thank you and revenge. She's like, It had been a huge shock when I found out she'd lied to me, but now I knew what she'd been going through. Still, I felt like saying I'd forgiven her would just be arrogant. I'd always thought of her as my enemy. I wasn't entitled to an apology and didn't have the right to forgive her.
いいんですか？
もらってほしい。
また一緒にフィギュア買いに行きましょうね。
She finally gave me the kind smile I'd seen when we'd first met. I nodded. Then I glanced over at Ayase and Momose, too, and finally I took one long look at Nanami and Shogun. Then I started to walk, alone, through the piles of rubble. Woo. Shoo. God, this has got to be almost over, right? Shinsen Station was one station away from Shibuya on the Yunokashira line. By train, it took only a minute to get there. The station itself was covered by a tunnel, and the only light from the outside came from the entrance at the end of the platform. Because of the earthquake, all of the lights were off. It was far darker than usual. Oh, ski-wo, I forgot there were two other characters. Aoi Sena stepped inside, supporting the body of Kozue Orihara as she walked. There was no need to buy a ticket. Yeah, man, I know. I know. There weren't any station attendants around, and the ticket machines weren't working either. Whoa, that's crazy. I wonder why. She looked over at the rails and saw that they were badly bent. Bent badly. Of course, the trains hadn't been running since yesterday. Fun you. She looks fine. Kozue's left leg was covered in blood, apparently. She'd cut it badly on glass during the earthquake. Sena had tried to stop the bleeding with a towel, but the cut turned out to be deeper than she'd thought. Kozue was going to need real medical attention. Gigolomaniac powers couldn't heal injuries, so they really kind of sucked. The pain made your brain realize the injury was real, whether you wanted it to or not. You couldn't create a shared awareness that the injury didn't exist. You couldn't make it so that it never happened. Your human instincts wouldn't let you. Well, she's still good enough to add her fucking childish fucking verbal tics. Kozue said telepathically, looking like she was about to cry, but Sena said nothing. She'd come straight here to Shinsen Station on foot. When she reached the empty platform, she suddenly let go of Kozue. With one leg too weak to move, Kozue dropped to the ground. Hey, what you drop me for? What the fuck? Sena paid no attention to Kozue, who was looking up to her in confusion. She was staring at a single point on the platform, teeth gnashing in rage. Takumi Nishijo. She was staring at a figure. Oh. Another zombie. A homeless man, dressed in filthy rags. He had a sign reading, "The minds of men will perish." Sena began to slowly walk towards the man. Her voice was ice cold. The homeless man, Hatano, spoke her name coldly, without even looking up at her. Yeah. That's it? I'm going to kill you! Thank you. I've been thinking for months about how I was gonna kill you. Sick. Sweet, let's go. Oh, okay. Sena booted her D-sword. She decided the method she'd use to kill her father. She'd kill him with the D-sword. 'Cause what else would she use? It was simple, which meant it was closest to the truth. How she'd killed him didn't matter. What mattered was that she killed him. Slice. He still wasn't looking up at her. Because I suck.
しかも
Senna's voice had been completely devoid of emotion, but now it was starting to waver, just a little.
お前には見せたく
Yeah, I wanted that to be a secret, and then you kind of happened upon it, so thanks. It's actually your fault.
いや今のは聞き流して
なぜあんなことを
過程を説明することは無意味だよ
I don't know, and neither do the writers.
お前は納得しないし結果が改変されるわけで
Senna lowered the D sword toward Hatano's head.
そうやってまた逃げるのか
間違っていたのは私だ
お前には失望した
Me too.
まだ期待していたのか何を人を含めて世界は全てでそう言ったのはお前だ
Senna's shoulders were shaking. For almost 3 years, ever since Hatano had begun the Mana Project, the two of them had barely seen each other, and yet he'd seen through her almost instantly. Something felt wrong, but the uncertainty in her heart turned into raging anger that threatened to make her lose control.
セナ惑わされ電気仕掛けならばお前のその私を恨む感情もまた
All emotions are electricity. Whoa! Hatano kept talking. Senna tried to force herself to calm down. Calm down.
お前の言葉なんか
あまり感情的な行動をとるなその言葉を
Just
受け取って
slice this motherfucker's head off.
精神攻撃判断を中止する
話を終わり
Senna went to raise her D-sword. But ever so slightly before she could, Hatano suddenly stood up. Kozue was watching them nervously. She thought about trying to stop them, but her foot hurt too much to move. She wasn't sad, but in her heart, she was sobbing. Hatano walked toward her with broad strides. Senna was slow to react, so she changed her stance to strike him when he got close, but when she went to move, she slipped on some loose stones. She lost her balance. Her uncertainty was showing in her movements. The sharpness had disappeared from her demeanor. She was afraid. Hating her father was how she kept herself from spiraling out of control. But now that she was face to face with him, she was afraid of confronting him. She didn't know why, but she was sure that what he had said just a moment ago was the cause. Hatano was running at her with incredible speed, making that face, I assume. Skiwo. She fell backwards, and as she did, she swung her D-sword upward. The blade had no weight, and so no center of gravity. Swipe. First it cut through the tiles on the platform floor, then it sliced into his shoulder. The cut was clean, like a hot knife through butter. Senna was pushed backward by her father's hands. Red blood spilled from his wound. There was a look of relief in his eyes. Senna bit her lip, like, ooh, fuck. Just as something struck him in the chest. It passed through his body from behind before whizzing by Senna's cheek. Blood poured, not just from his shoulder, but from his chest as well. The crimson liquid spurting from the wound splashed onto Senna's face, pictured here. A bullet? Senna had fallen on her back. She looked up quickly and tried to find the man who had fired the gun. It's me again! The half-smiling frown man. The man was standing in the gap between the Shinsen Station tunnel and the tunnel that led to Shibuya, that railroad crossing that was the one place where you could see the sky. He had a gun in his hand. Senna's father fell down next to her. His chest was already covered in blood. Had he protected me? Me, of all people? Senna looked in disbelief at the blood spreading across the station's floor tiles. Oh, he still had enough strength in his body to deliver another fucking riddle. Her father whispered with his dying breath. Bye-bye.
素直すぎ。そんなお前がとても悲しく。
You're sad, but I like that about you.
そして
The bullet had been aimed at Senna, and Hatano had saved her. She'd been trying to kill her father, but instead he'd saved her life. Oops. Damn you to heck. Senna's grip on the blade tightened. This guy's still taunting from the other side of the fucking train station. What a dork. Strange noise was echoing across the platform. Senna instantly realized that it was being caused by Noah too. How long had it been here? She felt infuriated. Infuriated at the man with the gun, who'd interrupted her after she'd finally found her father. I'm going to kill you! As she stood up and looked at him. A baby's cries suddenly echoed across the dark platform. Senna suddenly felt something different in her hands. For some reason, instead of a sword, she was holding the rotted, desiccated corpse of a baby. Oh fuck, where'd this come from? Then she realized it was her own sister, who she'd just seen one time. Ugh. Senna began to feel uncertain. She couldn't take her eyes off of it. She couldn't forgive herself for throwing away her little sister, for finding her appearance disgusting. It had been the same way last time, when she'd been forced to witness her mother's end, when she'd seen her mother go insane and die. When she'd seen that, it wasn't just sorrow or fear that she'd felt. The thing she'd felt most was disgust. That feeling had lingered in her heart as a sense of guilt, and she'd been averting her eyes from it through the act of hating her father. Even if her mind knew this was a delusion, the feeling she'd locked away inside her mind had awakened, and she was paralyzed by them. Ay, ay, ay. And it wasn't just Senna. Kozue was the same way. She saw a huge mirror appear in front of her, and her own reflection, weeping blood from its leg, was asking her a question. I don't know.